What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy the Hater once again, and it's time for a review of Saturday Night Main Event. I wasn't planning on watching this, but then I made some food for myself and I had nothing to do, so I figured let's throw this on, make a video on it the next day, and here we are. You know what I mean? Personally, I thought that this event was complete horseshit. I didn't enjoy it at all, despite the card being like relatively decent considering everything, right? So first of all, Jesse the Body Ventura is there, and he's just a delight. You know what I mean? Like, he made some good analysis during the matches. He was entertaining. You know, Jesse's cool. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I like him, sometimes I hate him, but overall, he's a good egg. Now, the first match starts. It's Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax in a throwaway 9-minute match, basically, right? This is for the Women's World Championship that Rhea Ripley holds. The philosophy was that if Nia Jax wins this, she would then go to the Rumble and try to win the other belt from Tiffany Stratton. I think that Nia Jax is one of the favorites for the Women's Royal Rumble, although personally I believe it's going to be Jade Cargill. You know, I've been saying that for like months now. But the match is what it is. Rhea Ripley hits a botched riptide because she can't really do it to like someone that's big and strong. So, you know, and she pins her. Nothing really crazy here. I don't like Rhea Ripley. I don't believe anybody really likes Rhea Ripley. She's kind of boring. She's kind of just there, you know what I mean? She's not exciting at all. She doesn't, like, deserve to be in the position she's in. She hasn't earned it. I don't know. I don't like her. I don't care about Charlotte coming back, by the way. A lot of people are talking about that, but who the hell cares, you know? This match was a throwaway match. Next up, and also it was predictable, which obviously is a very recurring theme for all of these matches, right? Next up, we had Braun Breaker, who's supposed to be a big deal, versus Sheamus. Now, Sheamus has this new move that he's been doing for like a year now called the kneecap, which is basically like a bicycle knee. It's basically the bro kick, but he doesn't extend his full leg. Now, there are some situations where this move could make logical sense, right? Like if the person is too close to do the bro kick, and that's kind of how he uses it. But the question always remains, it's like, this is basically halfway to your finishing move. Just do the finishing move. You know, it would be like if Gunther was going to do a power bomb and instead he just like drops the guy like backwards into an alley-oop, and it's like, dude, you had him there for your finisher. Why not just do the finisher? So despite that, the match was pretty decent, of course, but it was exactly what you'd expect. Braun Breaker is awesome still. He did his moves. He did the little gut buster, which I really like. He did the Frankensteiner. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that spot because Sheamus does that thing where he grabs the ropes and he kind of like backflips onto the top rope, and this was basically countered by Braun Breaker into the Hurricane Rana. So the match wasn't bad, but once again, like, we know the result already, you know what I mean? Braun Breaker is basically having a Gunther-like run. It's the same thing with another guy. You know, eventually he's going to drop it to somebody, and he's going to move on to the main event. This is a complete and utter waste of time for Braun Breaker, who, like, even though he's young, I mean, why waste him in the mid-card? You know he's going to be a main eventer. There's no sense in having the mid-card be held up by legitimate main eventers. You know, there's no doubt, like there would be with Sami Zayn or Gunther, because let's be real, these guys aren't going to make it, you know, into the main event. Like, for real, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, Braun Breaker, like, Gunther has, like, one main event run in him, and that's it. I don't see anything else happening. This has Dolph Ziggler or Samoa Joe written all over it, cucks. But anyways, in the end, Braun Breaker hits a spear, and he wins, right? Nothing crazy here. He also hit a spear to the outside, which is pretty cool. I really like Sheamus. I believe that he's one of the people that deserves praise because he's been wrestling like every fucking day. But, you know, it is what it is. He doesn't get rewarded here. Next up, we had by far the worst segment of the night, which was the Jacob Fatu Braun Strowman match. Now, the one thing you would want in this match is a decisive winner, but you knew you weren't going to get that. But it didn't even matter because, like, Braun Strowman got his ass beat. I didn't like this at all. First of all, Braun Strowman decides to do the little thing where he wiggles his finger around and runs around the ring, except he was lightly jogging. Maybe that's as fast as he can go, but if that's the case, then he just shouldn't do that move. So he does it and he plows into, Jacob Fat Poo. And then he does it again and plows into Jacob Fat Poo again. You know? And you're thinking to yourself, all right, great, enough is enough. But he decides to do it a third time, and you're thinking to yourself, well, what's going to happen next? Either he's going to keep doing the same move again and again, or eventually Jacob Fat Poo is going to counter it, right? That's exactly what happened. He does like a Samoan drop onto the table. Here's where I have the problem with the match and with the segment in its entirety. First of all, this Samoan drop wouldn't hurt, right? Because Jacob Fatu is not tall enough to essentially slam Braun Strowman. Don't blame me, motherfucks. If you name all your wrestlers Braun, I'm going to fuck it up. So he's not strong enough or tall enough to lift Braun Strowman to a certain height where dropping him on the table would make sense. So him doing that is like, oh, okay, great. And that's pretty much all it takes, right? Braun Strowman, who's supposed to be the monster amongst men, right? One big SOB. It takes one Samoan drop, one low-level Samoan drop to the table to pretty much put him out of commission. Because after the Samoan drop, Jacob Fat Poo does like 100 moves in a row, you know? And it's like Braun Strowman has no answer for any of this. So is that what Braun Strowman is? He's just a guy that you hit one move on him and then you can just have his way with him? You know, this is, of course, predicated by the fact that Braun Strowman is like 6'8" on paper and Jacob Fatu is like basically a puny man compared to Braun Strowman. It's just silly, you know? It's absurd that Jacob Fatu like would even have a chance against him. Furthermore, during this match, I kept asking myself the question of what the fuck is happening, right? Solo Sikoa isn't there. So it's just like now Jacob Fat Poo is going to have a run and then maybe he'll challenge Roman Reigns. Like, what's going to happen? You know, what's the point of this? Like, just bring back Solo Sikoa and just have him be like, I'm a cuck, and have Jacob Fat Poo take him out just like he took out Roman Reigns. You know, do that if you must. But what is the end game here? Then, to make matters even worse, Jacob Fat Poo puts Braun Strowman in the bottom corner so he can do the Samoan ass run, right? The least interesting of all the Samoan moves. So he does the ass run, and he's clearly not hitting Braun Strowman at all. It's just basically Jacob Fat Poo running his ass into the middle turnbuckle, his fat ass into the middle turnbuckle, and we're supposed to believe that this is devastating, Braun Strowman. Now, I understand this is wrestling, you know? I'm not saying take off his head with your ass, right? But at least hit him a little bit. This just looked so bad. Basically, and part of it is the fault of Braun Strowman, who wasn't really selling it. He was just there. Jacob Fat Poo would like hit Jacob Fat Poo would hit his ass into the middle turnbuckle, and then basically Braun Strowman would act afterwards like he got hit, right? But during the move, he wouldn't move at all. Plus, he had to sell this like I'm kind of knocked out situation, and then he like pops a pill in his mouth at some point, I guess, because he's bleeding from the mouth. But nothing happened to him. You know, this was just like too stupid for anyone to be entertained by. Afterwards, Jacob Fat Poo does essentially what Bronson Reed would do, which is do his top rope finisher multiple times while the dumbass security forces, including Davari, are just standing there. How about before he does it, you just stop him? But nobody can because he's Jacob Fat Poo. So he hits 2 moonsaults on him, and that's it. Eventually, Tama Tonga, for some reason, comes back to like hold him back. I don't know why, right? Like, I thought you hate this guy. Don't you want to destroy him? Well, he's being destroyed already, I guess. But anyways, I didn't enjoy this. And to make matters even worse, Braun Strowman wins by DQ. Like, how can Braun Strowman show his face again on SmackDown after this? Straight up. How can he just be so dominated by such an inferior man and then show up and be like, I'm back, Braun? You know, like, no, that's not, like, it takes one move to put you out, bro. It takes one move. You know, you have to protect the monster characters. It is the same way that I say that when Cody Rhodes beat Great Khali, it was pretty much over. You have to protect them. You know, maybe if it's like Brock Lesnar, like a believable threat, someone that could believably beat Braun Strowman, then maybe you can get by with this. But to have Jacob Fatu do it is basically one step away from having this happen to like Cesaro or someone like that, which begs the question of why didn't Cesaro ever get a push, cucks? But anyways, that happened, and I did not enjoy it in the slightest. Then we had the contract signing. Shawn Michaels comes out to a massive pop. I don't know why, but he has cross-eyed now. Like, he's been cross-eyed for a minute, and I can't quite point my finger as to why. He wasn't like that normally, but now he's cross-eyed. And basically, instead of moderating, he just eggs on Kevin Owens. Now, a couple of things that I hated about this. Number one, Michaels takes the belts in his possession so that they can hang them up above the ring, right? Kevin Owens grabs the bullshit Winged Eagle title, which has no meaningful, like, reason to exist in the slightest. He folds it up and he kisses it, right? It's like, this is just ridiculous. I understand that they're going for the whole, he's a little delusional, he thinks he's the champion thing, but it was cringe, because not only did you not earn the title, but it's not even a real title. You know, this entire segment really forces us to question the intelligence of anyone that was involved in writing this out. Because first of all, why are they fighting over this bullshit belt? You know, Kevin Owens shouldn't give a fuck about this belt, and Cody Rhodes certainly shouldn't give a fuck about it because he's the real champion. Then Cody Rhodes does the same thing with his title. He folds it and kisses it. What the fuck? Shut your mouth. You know what I mean? Enough of this bullshit. But they do this, and then during the segment, at some point, Shawn Michaels accuses Cucky Owens. He says, you just sound jealous, right? And Kevin Owens says, you also quit. You're just like Cody, whatever. Who gives a shit, right? At the end of the segment, Cody Rhodes starts to leave, and then Kevin Owens kicks Shawn Michaels in the tummy and is going to hit the package pile driver. It would have been better if he hit the package pile driver and ran away, because this would give the impression, the possibility, that Kevin Owens has a snowball's chance in hell in beating Cucky Rhodes, which I don't think is a possibility, because the alternative would be Kevin Owens becomes champion and Sami Zayn wins the Rumble or the Elimination Chamber, an outcome that nobody reasonable would ever want. So basically, Cody Rhodes comes in and he does a super kick. It's a shitty super kick to the chest, but it's enough for Kevin Owens to be rattled. Shawn Michaels gets up, bald and all, puts on his cowboy hat, takes off his jacket, revealing that he's been sweating like a pig this entire time, and hits the sweet chin music on Kevin Owens. Pretty much a complete and utter burial, but it's not a big deal because it's a burial of Kevin Owens, who's already been buried ad nauseum. Like, this guy is basically a jobber. Then we have the main event. They show Gunther in the back, like stretching with those little stretchy things, you know, those tension cords. I should know what they're called. Tension bands, because I have some. But anyways, we see him doing this, and then Jey Uso comes out, Gunther comes out, and Gunther wins. Another expected result. Nobody could possibly foresee a scenario where Jey Uso, this close to WrestleMania, becomes the champion. You know, Gunther, for all intents and purposes, after he lost the title to Sami Zayn, all he's done is be, quote-unquote, in the main event scene. So you're not going to just supplant him with a mid-card nobody. Now, if it was Gunther versus Goldberg, yeah, of course you're going to supplant him, because one of them is Goldberg, the other is Gunther. But here, it's Gunther and Jey Uso. You can call him main event Jey Uso all you want, but he's still undercard, sometimes mid-card Jey Uso. And with that being said, Gunther wins with two shitty-looking power bombs. You know, boring-ass Gunther match. I didn't enjoy it in the slightest. But to be fair, none of these matches were enjoyable, primarily because it was very obvious what was going to happen. As a matter of fact, in my mental predictions, I knew that Jacob Fatu would either win or that it would happen exactly the way he did. There's no way that Braun Strowman is pinning Jacob Fatu. You know what I mean? There's a zero chance. The best case scenario for Braun Strowman is to get humiliated, get his ass beat, and win by DQ, which in kayfabe doesn't matter for two reasons. Number one, Jacob Fatu is presented as a retarded Samoan who isn't even there to win. And number two, he hasn't been pinned, you know what I mean, or submitted. So it's like he's essentially undefeated. Who cares if you lose by DQ, right? Especially, which brings us to number three, when you lose by DQ, but you completely obliterate the other guy with your ass, right? Ass to the face. That's all we saw. A Samoan drop, maybe a few ancillary moves to get him back into the ring, and then ass to the face, 2 moonsaults. Wow, what a big deal. You know what I mean? I'm not impressed by any of these jobbers, and as far as I'm concerned, none of these guys are going to have prominent WrestleMania moments. You know, not even Gunther. Like, the probability of Gunther being champion after WrestleMania, in my personal opinion, is effectively zero. You know what I mean? I don't care who it is, but Gunther's not going to stay champion after WrestleMania because, quite frankly, he's Gunther. Cucky Rhodes has a chance at least. You know, in my opinion, it's not a good chance either, but nevertheless, a much better chance than Gunther. So with all that being said, we find ourselves completely wrecked and cucked. You know, nobody could possibly have enjoyed this. Nobody could have possibly been entertained by any of this. The only good thing about Saturday Night Main Event is that there's actual wrestling, right? And the promos are scarce. But, as I said several videos ago, we need promos back. Promos are integral to the concept of wrestling. But this is not the time and place for that. And I do appreciate the fact that despite it being like a pay-per-view that's not a pay-per-view, meaning that you have full-blown commercials, even though it's on Peacock, whatever, right? It's also on TV apparently. So because of that, you have to have commercials. And despite this, there's a lot of wrestling going on, you know? Now, the contract signing was a complete and utter waste of time. It served to achieve nothing except for really hammer in the point that there's absolutely no reason to watch the Kevin Owens-Cody Rhodes match at WrestleMania. I mean, at Royal Rumble. I don't see a scenario where Kevin Owens wins. Now, some people are saying he might win. Now, obviously, there's always a possibility. For example, Cocky Rhodes breaks his leg. They might decide that Kevin Owens is the champion. Whatever, right? Anything's possible. But if the plan, right, somehow, against all logic, if the plan is that Kevin Owens wins, then this will go down as one of the worst mistakes in the history of booking. Nobody sensible could ever want this to happen. That's the problem. Of course it's possible. It's possible that Tyler Breeze will come back and beat Gunther, right? But it's unlikely, and if it were to happen, more importantly than it being unlikely, if it were to happen, it would be a colossal, catastrophic disaster of the most epic proportions, meaning that no reasonable person could ever be entertained by this. Like, ask yourselves, do you want to see Royal Rumble end with, or whatever, start probably, with Kevin Owens winning? And then the question that you ask yourself during the men's Royal Rumble is, who is the winner going to challenge? Gunther or Kevin Owens? You know what I mean? I don't think that makes any sense. I don't think that's smart. I think it's really dumb if you ask me. And the reality is that nobody could possibly care about it either way, right? Just imagine that. Oh, the two champions are Gunther and Kevin Owens. And then let's say like Roman Reigns or Cena, let's say, wins, right? And then they're like, I'd like to challenge Kevin Owens for the title. Are you kidding me? Did you win the Royal Rumble or the Intercontinental title challenge like tournament on Raw? Because these guys are mid-card nobodies. You know? And at that point, if you're going to throw all that shit away, just give us a bunch of gimmicky matches. Like do like Cena versus Lesnar, I don't care. Do Cena versus Roman Reigns, you know, and then have the title matches be completely meaningless affairs like Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. You know, at the very least, we still have the Elimination Chamber, which represents the last opportunity to correct these disgusting mistakes that have been made over the last several months, up to the last several years, really. And that's how it is, and that's how it's going to be. The haters now going to go back and have some fun. So take care of yourselves, and see you guys tomorrow for Raw Review. Or maybe the next day for Raw Review. I don't know. We'll see. Cucks.